want to take you now to the Valle de Cauca region of Colombia, specifically to the city of Cali. That's where we find Carolina Jaramillo and Elena Rojas Rodriguez. Carolina is an office worker at a research center in the area. Elena works as her housekeeper. They're both mothers, close friends, describe each other as being like family, and are hunkered down together during the pandemic. Now, despite their closeness, when it comes to educating their kids at home, they're living two very different realities. Carolina's children, 13-year-old Andrea and 11-year-old Guillermo, attend private school and were able to continue their studies from home using video conferencing software. Elena's children, 10-year-old Sofia and 7-year-old Juan Jose, are relying on photocopies distributed by their local school and lessons sent to their mother through social media. I had the chance to speak with them one recent morning about their experience and what it means for their children's education. Carolina spoke in English and translated for Elena, who spoke in Spanish.
Okay, I have two kids. One of them is 11, the other one is 14. Unfortunately, they're studying in private schools. So I think that the stress hasn't been so much as in public schools because we have full internet. They have access to virtual classes through Zoom or Hangout or WebEx, I think it's called. And so the different platforms and Skype as well. So they have been receiving their classes by this different platforms, and they have homeworks to do after class, which has been, quite easy for them in terms of it hasn't been difficult because, as I said before, I have all the internet connections. The teachers have been very flexible in giving the kids time to deliver their homeworks and everything. So it has been quite smoothly.
And Elena, how are your kids continuing their education while they're not able to physically attend school?
Por el momento se encuentra...
Basically, that there's no internet connections, and whenever there is internet connection, it's very bad. In order to study, they're sending some homeworks via Facebook, but as I said before, the internet connection is really bad. And the other way is that they're sending photocopies to the school, and they have to pick it up, but it's far away from where they live, so sometimes it's difficult for them to pick it up. And that's basically how they're managing right now their virtual classes, but they're not receiving presential classes at the time.
Para poder recibirlas.
And Carolina, can you tell me a little bit about how this pandemic has unfolded in Colombia? I mean, I'm sure it's quite similar to the rest of the world, but kind of when did everyone go into lockdown? When did the schools close? And
okay.
How long has that been?
The government of Colombia began to implement some things during the second week of March, where the number of infected people began to arise, and the kids were sent to home from the 15th of March until today. They're still at home. So all schools were closed.
And I can imagine, as moms who both work, it's a whole new challenge balancing both work from home and looking after the kids all day long.
Yes and no. In my case, it hasn't been so difficult because at least my kids are a little bit older, so they can defend themselves. They now know how to connect themselves, and they connect to classes, and they know what they have to do. The only challenging thing is that I sometimes have to sit down and explain some things to my kids because it's not very easy when they explain it virtually and you cannot raise your hand or say, hey, I didn't understand how to do this or this or that. In the case of Elena, the thing is that she's working at home in my house, and their kids live in the Cauca, which is another department in Colombia. She lives in a small town called Chisquillo, which is like 2 hours. ¿A cuánto está el Tambo? De Cauca, del Popayán.
De Popayán, 2 horas.
It's like around 2 hours from the main city of Cauca and Popayán. So it's quite difficult for her to go right now to home because she cannot mobilize herself to home. She has to be in my house. And the only person who is available with the kids right now is her husband, which has to work all day as well.
And Elena, can you talk a little bit about that? Has it been challenging balancing work from home or work combined with having to also be responsible for the kids during the school day now?
Basically, she is asking for the kids to send a copy via WhatsApp of the homework that they're leaving them, and she's trying to help them that way. Once she receives a copy, she tries to interact with the kids and say, "Hey, I can help you with this and this and that," and in the sense, try to do the homework with the little one, especially with the little one.
Cómo tienen que hacer las tareas.
A question for each of you here. Do you feel that, your children are able to learn as much or as effectively from home compared to when they were physically in the classroom?
No. No, en ese momento no están aprendiendo.
Basically, she's saying that no, and they're sending homework of things they haven't even taught them.
So there's almost like a disjointed sort of nature to it here.
In my cases, I think I will say it's not the same. Virtual classes for me is not the same as presential classes because the attention for them is different. Sometimes I see my kids, with the earphones and listening to class, but they're not there. Even though they're there connected, they're not there. So I think they have too many distractions at home. The dogs, the TV, the mobile phone, other things which distract them from being 100% productive in school.
One question for you, Elena. Do you worry that somehow your children's education would be sort of damaged or stunted by this crisis and that it's going to take longer to recover? Or do you think the kids will be able to just go right back into school and kind of pick up where they left off?
Pues no creo que recuperen el tiempo.
She's saying that basically she really feels that they're wasting their time, that their kids right now are not learning, especially the little one, which is in first grade, and that she would suggest that they repeat the grade again because they're not learning right now. They're really not learning.
Carolina, beyond you and Elena's experiences, how else are you hearing about students continuing their education and their studies in Colombia?
I saw in the news yesterday that there's some kids in very remote areas in Colombia where there's no internet connections. They're really poor and they live in a very bad conditions. That they're given the militaries of Colombia have a radio station here in Colombia, and through that radio station they're giving classes to them in order for them to at least be communicated and don't get so back in the education. So they were saying that they were going back to the years where some people received school by radio, and it was really interesting. And I think it was good, to at least know that we haven't lost that people, the importance of the education in Colombia.
Elena Rojas Rodriguez and Carolina Jaramillo, two mothers living two very different experiences as they balance life, work, and now homeschooling their kids during the coronavirus lockdown. They joined the Development Podcast from Cali, Colombia.